Slurpees and everything.
Welcome to the Grappling With podcast. Dr. Chris Hardy and William Walker will take a deep dive into topics covering wellness and prevention, performance, recovery, and injury management. Our mission is to provide the latest science-based information to help you get the most out of your grappling journey, both on and off the mats, and help you overcome any challenges you may be grappling with. Dr. Hardy is a licensed physician and BJJ practitioner, but the contents of the podcast are meant for educational purposes only. It should not be taken as medical advice. Please seek out personalized care from your own medical provider prior to implementing any medical treatment or intervention.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, we were busy having a little conversation.
Talking about Chris's Value Village shirt that cost him $150.
Entry fee for IBJJF competition.
Yeah, for his year membership to do one tournament, and then the tournament entry.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's a good business model they got.
It's really
On the other side, you have me, which I'm wearing all knowledge.
Yeah.
For the jiu-jitsu people out there, can you get on this one here?
Yeah, it is.
5-panel hat, just saying. A little sun damage because I wear it in the sun almost every day. Check out the back.
I'd rather not check out the back.
Shut up. Check it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Call it sleeve.
Looks great.
I like it. Well, you know, a direct message to the actual inventor and creator of that. I did buy an A2 gi. That I'm
are on sale.
Very looking forward to getting.
Yeah, they just went on sale a couple days ago.
When I saw you in it, I'm like, if it can make you look good, I'm like,
son of a bitch.
I'm like, dude, look, who knows what it could do for me?
I know what it could do for you, but we'll just put that on the Patreon or something.
And what I am going to do, just so you guys know, I didn't tell anybody before now, but I'm going to get a little duck patch. And I'm going to put it on. It's kind of an inside joke with our professor that thinks it's hilarious that I'm old.
Yeah.
He thinks I like to feed ducks in my spare time.
If you're a fan of The Office, there's a scene where Michael Scott is going and feeding ducks. And it's just so perfect because we could put you in that scenario at a park by yourself, just feeding ducks.
Well, there's no pigeons around here, so I have to resort to ducks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and he said that Andrew said he was going to build a duck pond at his house.
Yeah.
So I could come over.
Just for you.
Yeah, and I told him I'd probably be invading his house. And
well, he probably wouldn't have to tell you. You'd just be like, you just know, like a tractor beam. There's ducks that need feeding.
Apparently it's part of the ARP plan.
Right.
That you have to start feeding ducks.
Gives you a discount.
After 50. Yeah, it's required. So anyway.
Well, yeah, shout out to All Knowledge
Jiu-Jitsu.
Clothing. Yeah, All Knowledge Jiu-Jitsu. You can find them on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. They're not a sponsor. They're just really good stuff. And they make me look way like buffer than I actually am.
Their shirts are really nice, the quality of the material.
Look at the cut. Drink it in.
I told you I was jealous already, dude.
Shut your mouth.
I want some.
So I got a question.
Okay.
I want to talk about warts.
You're just going to drop
Do you want to do this on the podcast or do you want to?
I do.
Okay.
You got that blur button ready?
What?
The blur button, because he's apparently going to expose himself.
I am going to expose
Tell
myself.
me.
I'm going to expose my feelings.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to expose someone else's feelings because they sent a question in. And I just want to kick it off right away with this, and then we'll get into the topic at hand.
Okay.
So the question is warts. What are they? Can I get them from training? Can I train with them? And did I get one from training or from trying to toe hold Bill?
The answer to the last question is almost certainly.
Yeah. I actually have a wart on my foot.
Yeah. And you're, in general, just a contagion.
A contagion.
On the mat. For many reasons.
Let down of a movie.
Yeah. Contagion. Yeah, it was. But warts typically...
Can you see that?
Why are we showing this off right now?
It's my wart.
Are we showing off your flexibility?
It's not very impressive, though.
I know. It's. I've had that since I was probably...
Dude, you could totally feed yourself with your feet.
Oh, for sure.
With your flexibility.
I have good toes, though.
They're pretty amazing.
I got the nasty things.
No, yeah, that's for sure.
Centaur boots.
There are viral in origin.
Warts. Okay.
They can be, they are contagious to an extent.
Because I think I remember when we were kids.
Yeah.
That was like a big thing.
Yeah.
If you get them from frogs only. And then if you touch them, you're probably going to get it.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
You can't. Plantar warts are the most common, the ones on your feet. Usually the most painful are the ones on the bottom of the feet. Honestly, if you have one, just go ahead and wrap it and cover it up.
So if it's like, because like that one, it doesn't seem like it's an exposed wound or anything. It's just like a piece of skin.
Yeah, typically. It's not going to.
Like a skin tag almost.
Right. It's not going to, that, like you said, that's not going to give anybody warts for sure. Yeah.
So that makes me wonder if he was toe holding me and he was like eyeball to wart with my foot and was like, am I going to get warts? No. But obviously you got something.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to look at them. But, have you seen the ones that have become, they look like little cauliflowers and they're all.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah. So, just wrap those things. You can get them. There's a variety of treatments for them. Carrie, do you usually use like liquid nitrogen? Do you recommend that?
I don't have liquid nitrogen in my office. I actually use a stinging beetle venom called Cantharidin.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Stinging beetle venom? What does that do?
It creates a little blood blister, kills off that virus.
Oh.
It pops right out.
Yeah, so I guess that's a new one, and it works pretty well, huh?
It works very well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is that what you do for skin tags too?
No, those, they just lop their head off.
Yeah, she just chops those off, she said. If you guys can't hear, obviously she's not on mic. Very interesting, though. Yep. Carrie, do you find people all have, and by the way, there's different kinds of warts. There's genital warts, which is a different thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Viral.
Still all viral, though. They're all viral. And they're typically, it's not the plantar warts and stuff like that. It's more of a nuisance than anything.
Okay.
They're not going to get infected or anything. The problem with those is they'll get deep and they'll, it actually starts to become painful to walk on them.
I think I actually had one on my hand at one point that it was almost like, it felt like more like under the skin. It didn't like protrude a whole bunch.
What could be something else too. The ones that usually will come to the surface, and you see them on fingers too.
Yeah, I had one somewhere on a finger too.
I didn't know.
It went away.
Stinging beetle venom. That's super cool. Where do you get that from?
The compounding pharmacy.
Oh, the compounding pharmacy.
She flies to Africa, hunts down beetles,
That's pretty cool.
milks them for their venom.
She's a beetle milker.
Yes, she is.
Straws.
Yeah.
That is super cool. And gosh, now I'm all excited about this.
Yeah.
So when you
Google it.
do you just put it in a little syringe and needle it and just inject into it?
No, you drop it on.
Or you just drop it on?
Yeah, so
almost like that compound W.
like the compound. W.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one treatment.
Sometimes it's two, but most people it's been one. Used it for other skin infections like molluscum contagiosum.
Yeah.
Molluscum contagiosum.
Yeah, another
Great Caesar from the
No,
1400s.
you know what that sounds like? That sounds like Harry Potter, like a
Oh, a spell.
a spell.
molluscum contagiosum, right?
Yeah.
I like it.
Ridiculous.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I love it.
Nerd alert.
Oh, hello. As long as you guys don't start talking about what house you're sorted into, we're okay.
Okay, I never went that far.
Okay, good. Very, very interesting. Yeah, no, you're don't freak out too much about those things. Obviously, genital warts are different, and you're not going to pass those along unless you're having direct skin-to-skin contact with the genitals. So.
If it's bleeding at all, it's still
Covered up, yeah, well, sure.
covered up like a normal scratch of something.
Well,
like
because it's still a break in the skin barrier, right? Just treat it like anything else, yeah. And just always covering that is just good anyway.
that. Okay.
Yep, cool. That's actually a good question.
Thank you.
Yep.
It was not by me.
Yours, you were just passing along, taking credit for it. It's cool.
By an islander. I don't know what that means, but what do you got for us today? You kept us in the cold.
I know. So
Actually, maybe let's mention there was a horrible event.
oh my gosh,
that
dude.
just happened. Not to kick off the podcast. In like
Yeah,
a real
but we
shitty
should
way.
talk about that, man. That's freaking horrible. Bill, go ahead and you can.
Yeah, so this morning, today's August 7th, Leandro Lowe was shot and killed, which is insane. 33, 34 years
33.
old.
Jeez.
Yeah, 33 years old. He's kind of known as being a little bit of like a party guy. So he was out at the bars or something like that.
Yeah.
And,
I think they said it was a concert.
concert. And then some guy took from when you try to transcribe the articles, it's some guy like there's a confrontation. He grabbed Leandro's drink off his table and obviously was starting some sort of riffraff. Leandro double legs him and takes him down, probably just holds him. And then when he gets up,
They get separated.
they get separated. The guy just pulled a gun and shot him in the head.
Oh my God.
And pretty horrible.
Oh, to say the least, man.
yeah.
That's just freaking.
And it was an off-duty cop, I guess, that did it.
This goes back to that whole podcast we did with Kyle. You know, about, you know, what's an acceptable use of deadly force, and that from what you're describing, this sounds like just murder.
Yeah,
to me,
the information we have, it just seems really bad all the way around.
what a horrible loss, man.
Yeah.
To the community too. That's freaking what a waste, right?
Yeah, so that's a tough one, especially when it's just, you know, someone you watch so much that you don't know the people, but it's still
but
like,
man, if anybody that's in our community, you know, what a awesome competitor, and just, you know, man, that's a terrible loss.
any sort of death really just sucks. So
Well, for sure, for sure. You know, but you know, when it's someone that you know in the community, well known, it always hits hard. You know, just
and it's unexpected.
Well,
and
so senseless.
senseless is the right word.
Yeah,
that's terrible news, though.
right. So with that, not to bring the mood down too much,
Oh,
but
too late, man. Jeez, gosh,
spoiler
that's
alert.
terrible.
We'll cut and come back.
Well,
after some
I
ice
mean,
cream.
this is we gosh, yeah, that bummed me out, man.
Yeah. But what you did with today's episode,
so go ahead.
You didn't tell us, what it's about.
Right.
You did your little doctor handwriting, so I can't read it from here.
No.
And
By design.
Yeah, you said I'm gonna come at you with some heat.
Not really.
Okay.
But I have a topic I was thinking about for a long time, ever since I started jiu-jitsu. Okay. And as I was going through it, you know, and you always hear what jiu-jitsu has done for people outside the mats, right? And it's growing exponentially right now. And if you think about it, before I get into this, first of all, why do you think it's so if you and Olivia and Carrie, who's here too, all the things it's done for you personally, right? On all levels. And why is it so good for us, it seems, on across the board in so many ways? And why do you think it's exploding unlike any other martial art is right now in popularity? What is so my thought was, you hear anecdotes all the time, it did this for me, but what is drawing people in to the extent that it is, and why is it having such a beneficial effect? As you know, because there's plenty of other exercise programs people do. There's plenty of other martial arts that are out there that people do. But what is unique about this? Have you guys ever thought about that?
I think a little bit. Liv, do you want to give your 2 cents first, or?
No, you can.
So I think a big part that gets people almost into the cult, if you will.
Sure.
And because that's what happens is you get bit by the bug, you enjoy it, and then you start referring it to anybody and everybody you've ever met.
But why do you get bit by the bug?
Right.
That's the question.
And I think part of that is the camaraderie that you develop, which is probably as close to military brotherhood that, you know, you both served for years, and you become close with those fellow servicemen. So this is like the closest you can get to that because you're going through struggle, you're being put in vulnerable moments and stuff like that, and you're not even thinking about it. But then out of nowhere, it could be 3 months in, and you are now very good friends with someone that you didn't even know before that.
Well, right.
So I think the camaraderie and the community thing really gets you into the cult. And then you have the force struggle, which, you know, there's other big podcasts that have talked about that kind of stuff, but our lives are so soft and easy by like we're working for that, right? We work to have a air conditioning car and house and yada yada. But so we have to kind of force ourselves into struggle.
Why though?
It seems like it develops strength in us. We become stronger, just like working out, right?
But what is exactly. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, those are kind of the things that a lot of people say. I'm going to try to hit on those from more of a.
But I think with that resilience that it builds it through failure, getting submitted, getting swept, getting just beat up during a round. It's very odd, especially towards. I mean, it continues even down the line. But especially in the beginning, and I just talked to one of Aaron, white belt, in the day class. He's been coming for about 4-ish months. And we're talking about, he's at the point, he's 4 months in. He's not really winning a lot of rounds during sparring, right?
Sure.
Right? He's still in that mode where it's sometimes, a lot of the times he's the nail, especially if, knowing me, I'm not very gentle on the man.
Well, on white belts in general, you seem to like to wrist lock them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But we were talking, and it's those days where he just got like beat up that that's keeping him coming back. There's an odd feeling of getting destroyed and being like, I needed that. And you don't even realize how good that is for you. And you start to, the first part you realize is it feels like there's something like good. I don't know, there's a good feeling that comes in, and you start recognizing that. You're like, well, I'm going to go again this week. Similar to golf a little bit. In golf, you can suck, like as in like have a bad shot, a bad shot, a bad shot, a bad shot. And you kind of get obsessed with the perfection of a good shot, of how it feels. You don't even feel it in your hands. It goes straight. It's got a sound to it, yada, yada. And then similar with jiu-jitsu, you're getting swept. You're just getting beat all the time. And then jiu-jitsu, you complete a sweep. You pass someone, you get to half guard, something like that. In golf, you hit one good shot out of the last 15. That one shot is like, I'm going to play again next week.
So you're chasing that.
Yes. There's that just little bit of reward that like keeps you to come back. But most of the time you're struggling.
I like what you're saying.
It's very, very, very interesting. And I don't know if that's a biological thing maybe of like this, of it's built in us that we are resilient. We're as humans, if you go back a couple thousand years.
Survival.
Yeah, exactly. We're living in the woods. We're finding our food daily. If maybe you don't find food that day, now it's a couple days.
And you got to deal with that.
Yeah. Liv?
Well, at least for me, the reason why I kept coming back had to do with just wanting to be able to learn to defend myself. I think maybe I've told this story before, but there was the reason why we even started was because there was a Subaru dealership in Seattle where some woman was in the bathroom. They were under construction.
Like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, and some guy off the street walked in and attacked her. And
just while she's a service customer getting her car work done, she just goes to the bathroom.
With Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just remember reading that, and for some reason that was like the thing that finally sparked me to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go and train, because especially for me, like it's more of there's so much crime going on. It just seems like things are getting like not as safe as they used to be. And especially as a female, I think being able to know how to defend myself is important, but also just getting the space between me and the attacker and being able to get away is the biggest thing.
Would you also say being able to keep your kind of head about yourself during a stressful?
Oh, for sure. I'm sometimes I think about I don't know how you can't think about these things, but I think about like if I was ever in a situation where there's like an active shooter somewhere or anything, like how would I react? And I have a feeling I would be able to have a much cooler head versus people who've never been, you know, in any sort of like stressful kind of fight or flight situation, which you're constantly kind of put in when you do jiu-jitsu.
Or at least when you get to that fight or flight.
Yeah.
It's not so shocking that it is debilitating.
Yeah, you're like, I've been here before, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of resilience thing you guys were talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, all very good points. Me being kind of nerdy, I wanted to kind of operationalize this thing into like conceptually, because there's other things that can do similar things, but do they have all the attributes that seems to drive people to come back?
It's pretty hard to find.
It really is, and that's what really got me thinking about it.
And I think similarly, CrossFit.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, that's
for community and things like that. And I think that's one of the biggest things behind CrossFit success is that community piece.
Yeah,
and you know, it's one of the things that I'm going to.
So why do you think? Because I have a thought on this, but why do you think boxing or kickboxing, like what has made jiu-jitsu, grappling, because there's a big boom in no-gi grappling too, right? What has made it start to gain a ton of ground from a hobbyist perspective? We're not talking like jiu-jitsu is more popular than boxing or anything like that. It's from a hobbyist perspective, it's like skyrocketed. Yeah,
and you're not getting hit in the face.
You think that's a big piece?
Oh, yeah. You know, the concussive, people's worried about concussions and things like that. But I think there's a little more to it too. And as I kind of go through, I have some points here that I wanted to kind of, and see what you guys think about this. So, put on my nerd glasses and put them weirdly on my face.
Just got excited.
I know. Well, you know. So the first point is, I think that we all recognize pretty readily, is the physical benefits and the health benefits, right? Not only from the exercise itself, right, which can be intense at times, the cardiovascular, muscular effects, and the metabolic effects too. You know, people come in all the time. I mean, you have your own little, your weight loss, your metabolism, everything like that. People that are pre-diabetic come in and then it gets rid of that. You know, that's the health. That's kind of an obvious piece.
It's probably the first thing people notice. I would say the first day or the first week or people it's so tiring.
Well, and Carrie and I were working with one of our new white belts, really nice guy. I won't call him out here until we get to know him better.
First of all, that's my rookie.
Carrie and I adopted him already. Too bad.
Mine's my rookie.
That's fine. We can share. Okay. But one of his comments yesterday was, "Oh my God, this is a workout." He goes, "Couldn't believe the workout he was getting. He was exhausted."
You guys were just drilling, right?
Drilling, and then we were doing some situationals, and Carrie and I weren't going hard,
of course. Yeah.
But you know. Oh, Carrie said she wrist locked him. Jeez.
This guy, he's a day classer. That's why I say he's my rookie. But so his exposure to upper belts is me.
Oh gosh.
And Carrie.
Well, he got a little piece of me yesterday too.
Well, that's funny is because he's gonna just be brought up thinking like, well, you wrist lock everybody.
Yeah. Oh, as far as wrist locking, Carrie.
I didn't do it.
She didn't.
We're at Cascade. I'm sorry, Andrew. We are crushing that stereotype if you do not wrist lock till blue belt.
Yep.
It's just, is that a mutiny? Is that what it is? Where we rise up and
there
it is.
Going against the grain, man. Revolutionary.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I like it. But anyway, you know, you hear that all the time. Yeah. Like, man, I've lost weight. My health is better. My blood work is better, that kind of thing. And but other things do that too, right? So, you know, you can't just say, well, that's unique to jiu-jitsu. Right, you could get into a cardio kickboxing program. You could get into something else, CrossFit. Okay, but what about the brain benefits of this? Right. So one of the things we always talk about, especially right now in modern society, and especially over the last couple of years, the amount of stress people are under is crazy. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. Right. You name it, you know, inflation, isolation, people getting pissed off at the government for whatever your thing is. Yeah. So all that has effects. It's not just, a lot of people think that's a psychological thing. Psychology is an expression of the neurology, right? Your behavior is an expression of what's going on in the brain physiologically, structurally. And what's interesting is chronic stress. We probably talked about this before. Remember that episode we did on stress and the stress cup? We're going to have a little overlap with that. But long-term stress actually impedes something called neuroplasticity, which, the definition is, it's the ability of the brain to kind of reorganize, in some cases, build new neurons and new connections, especially in places like the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, which work together. Hippocampus really is, for very, very broad strokes, is like a memory center where you orient, hey, I've been here before, you refer back to it, short-term memory. And that interfaces with the prefrontal cortex, which is our kind of, we call executive function and judgment. It's the thing that keeps us from reacting to things. When people are like, oh, wow, you're really patient with that person. That's the prefrontal cortex operating how it should be, as opposed to someone kind of looks cross-eyed at you and you just go nuts. That's a lack of prefrontal cortex function. That's what separates us from a lot of the other animals, is we have the ability to evaluate the situation and put it in context, as opposed to just being reactionary. And what's interesting is during chronic stress over time, the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, believe it or not, actually lose volume and connections. It physically shrinks, so to speak. So the normal processes that keep all those neurons connections going are inhibited by stress. And so you actually, when you do brain scans of like chronically depressed and especially chronic depression, you see smaller hippocampal volumes and the connections to the prefrontal cortex aren't there anymore. So these people become more reactionary. And you've seen this road rage, right? People that are always kind of flying off the handle.
So you can literally devolve almost, like you can.
Yeah. Your brain becomes more animal-like. And it's a survival mechanism if you think about it. So if we're in a situation where we're out in the environment without protection, the person that's going to react to things as opposed to kind of sitting there and evaluating is going to probably survive more. The classic one is if I'm walking down a path in a woods and I see something cylindrical across the path, the person that's very reactionary is like, that could be a snake, boom, and they're gone, right? As opposed to someone just really using it's like, does that make sense for a snake to be there that time? That whole thing where you're actually processing it and doing a threat analysis. That person that's doing that probably is more at risk for being injured because they're not just reacting. Like if you look at a deer cross-eyed, they're gone. They're not going to sit there and evaluate, Right. So we do, over chronic stress, our brain does become more reactive and animal-like. So while the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus volumes and connections aren't as robust anymore, the amygdala, which is kind of your fear memory that's tied strongly into your flight or fight response, actually grows connections. It gets really good at reactionary type of things. Okay. And people all the time that are under a lot of stress. They're very, like, every little thing will set them off and react. That is because it's not a psychological weakness. That's because their amygdala and all that flight or fight has become really good at activating, because all the brain knows is, hey, we're under some kind of chronic threat, right?
How do you help that person?
We'll talk about that. Okay. But that's why I think, and I'll tell you why I think jiu-jitsu helps that. So I know
a couple of them.
Yeah, well, we all do, man. I've been there myself from time to time.
You were one of them.
Thanks you. So there is, even in depression, this is really interesting because a lot of people say that jiu-jitsu has helped their anxiety and depression, right? And one of the hypotheses that's been put forward by neuroscientists and psychiatrists is what's called the neuroplasticity hypothesis of depression, where it is a response to the environment where instead of with chronic stress, these new neurons and these connections aren't being made in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus. So you actually start getting cell death in those areas. That's what causes those connections to kind of go away. It's called apoptosis. anyway, you don't need to know all that. But that's one of the hypotheses for depression is that, you know, they used to hang their hats on the whole neurotransmitter hypothesis, like a serotonin deficiency and all that. Yeah. And I believe, Carrie, wasn't there a recent paper really starting to show that that's really not... I
just saw that getting shared on social media.
Yeah. That's not...
I believe it's out of England.
Out of Britain.
It's not a serotonin deficiency.
Right.
Although those medications can be very helpful.
But not for that reason. So what Carrie's saying is, you know, that they're saying it's not a serotonin deficiency anymore, but well, then why do these selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, like, you know, the classic one, Prozac, and, you know, there's tons of them.
Sure.
But it might be helping the neuroplasticity, and it might have what we call, with any medication, you can have what's called pleiotropic effects, which means it's not just maybe one thing, it's affecting many things, right? And so we hung our hats on, because this modulates serotonin, it must be a serotonin problem. It's turning out that that's probably not I'm sure it's probably not the primary driver. Where we have more likely, at least to my mind, is like this neuroplasticity thing, and also just low-level brain inflammation, right? Anyway, so I talked already what chronic stress does is where we have that reduction in the hippocampus volume and the prefrontal cortex and an increase in that amygdala for the fight or flight. What exercise in general, especially very high-intensity exercise, it produces something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You'll hear me say BDNF. I'm not going to say that full name again. BDNF is signaled to the brain to help jumpstart and restore those connections and those new neurons. So that's why exercise, when you look at some of the literature on depression, exercise was just as good, if not better, than those serotonin modulating medications.
I remember that acronym came up.
BDNF, we've talked about it before.
Especially when I had the old Voldemort. And there was something, I don't remember why, something about working out and then activating that.
BDNF.
Yeah.
I was just hypothesizing that because, you know, that kind of viral infection, especially that one, seems to have a level of, especially in some people, some neuroinflammation component.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Because it was almost like fogginess.
The brain fog.
Yeah. And the visual, not impairment, but there was an odd visual thing where it's like you can't really focus as you scan.
Well, loss of smell.
Sure.
Yeah, all these things those are all cranial nerves. Those are nerves that go back to the brainstem, both vision, olfactory, taste.
Your hypothesis was that the
BDNF.
Is that the right way to say it? Activating BDNF?
Yeah, in the exercise, you mean? Yeah. Exercise actually stimulates gene production of BDNF.
Okay.
Right, exactly. And that's why it seems to be that's a really good thing for it. I mean, none of this is proven, but it makes sense knowing what, you know, because it's also a stressor to the system too.
Well, and Chris, maybe also be why some individuals were prescribing fluvoxamine as well, you know, to reduce that neuroinflammation.
Great point. So Carrie has used fluvoxamine in some of her patients with post-Voldemort.
I think McCullough also was big on that.
Was part of that, that FLCCC group, where they're thinking that actually helps with the neuroinflammation, right? So all these pieces are kind of coming together. But
and that's just for Voldemort, let alone the
anything
other
else,
stuff we're talking about.
For sure. But I mean, that's a good point. Bringing that back around is interesting. So, you know, so to recap real quick, we've talked about kind of the physical and metabolic benefits, you know, cardiovascular, metabolism, the brain effects of this high intensity type exercise we're doing, which we think, you know, BDNF is probably helping restore some of those lost connections due to chronic stress, right? Which feels good. When you start feeling better, you are more inclined, like you said, to come back and keep doing it. But there's, like I said, there's things that do both of those, though.
Is that BDNF, when that is being released, that activation process, is that the feeling you're getting when, like, you're driving home and you're just like, there's almost like relief. There's an enjoyment. You're happy. Is that that time, or is that other hormones?
That's other things like, that's kind of a norepinephrine thing and a dopamine and that kind of feel good type stuff afterwards. The endorphin rush, which are endogenous morphines. There's some cannabinoid activity too that has that kind of post euphoria type of feeling good.
That
like a runner's high is similar.
Yeah. And, I mean, we've talked about before, if we should train in the middle of the day rather than at 7 at night. But because that middle of the day training, your day is so good after.
I agree 100% with that. Yeah. And most of us can't, unfortunately, right? But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, optimally, that's what I would do. But again, those 2 points, the physical and the brain benefits, there's other forms of exercise certainly that can do that. So what is it unique about this? And that's why I kind of wanted to go further. And Olivia used the word resilience, which I think is a big point of this, because resilience, there's a couple definitions for it. Basically, the American Psychological Association says, quote, it's successfully adapting to change and uncertainty. In other words, when we have large life changes, even good ones are stressful, right? Or uncertainty, like, where's the country going with what we're doing right now? That whole existential angst kind of thing where we're like, I feel like the world's caving in and just being pulled apart. Being able to navigate that and still maintain, without getting into an anxiety state and still going through and be productive and, not getting just completely paralyzed by anxiety is part of resilience. And building resilience, also maintaining healthy physical and mental functioning after adverse events. Some people that go and have experienced horrific events overseas in the military get PTSD. Some people do better. And, it's like, well, what's the difference between those people? And there's a big push in the military of how to develop resilience to this, because those are debilitating things. And it doesn't mean you're weak if you would develop, it could be situational. It could be difference in genetics. It could be a ton of different things why certain people. But I do think the physical, the first two we talked about, the physical benefits and the brain benefits, both kind of build that resilience, right? Because now we're making those connections back to the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex through BDNF. We're getting these physical benefits, getting rid of that chronic inflammation, like let's say you're almost pre-diabetic or something. Both of those will start building. You're going to be able to adapt and be more resilient to things that happen to you in the future. That's why people often say, hey, since I started doing jiu-jitsu, I feel like I can deal with things in my life better, right? And it is building a resilience that way. Now, is that unique to jiu-jitsu? Probably not. But we're starting to put all of these things together into kind of a cohesive picture. Yeah. Because there's a couple other pieces that I think, because some of these, the old Venn diagram, like, okay, this has this, where do they overlap? I think jiu-jitsu has a little unique place when you put them all together, and I'm going to kind of get to those too. The piece that I think that doesn't have, that's not present in a lot of other kind of pursuits like this is the problem-solving deal. Our brain is wired to solve problems. And if there's to your point earlier, if there's no large problems for it to solve that it thinks it can solve, it's going to start making them up. You ever heard the phrase making mountains out of molehills? Yeah, that's exactly that process. When you're not engaging the brain in a serious problem solving, no matter what the input is, your brain will start looking for things. Okay, like, oh gosh, I have a weed here that I can't get rid of. Well, who cares? But that becomes a huge issue now because the brain's going, I got to figure that out. Or, just looking, starts looking for things that most people are like, well, that's trivial. Why are you worried about that?
Right.
Okay. With jiu-jitsu, we go into this willingly, especially as a white belt. You're like, dang it, I keep getting stuck in side control and I'm getting smashed and it's super unpleasant and I'm getting claustrophobic, blah, blah. I got to figure that out somehow. And you'll start thinking about that on the drive home. You'll wake up at night going, gosh, okay, I got to figure, I'm going to start doing some research on it. And that doesn't change. Like you and I at our level, we'd be like, I dang it, Bill got me in this nonsense that I need to find a solution for. And I'll kind of piece it, and your brain will start working on a problem. And then it won't go start looking for all these little trivial things, I think.
Yeah, I think Mikey Musumeci on the Rogan podcast, he has a very, I think he said, mathematical kind of brain, right? And he looks at it like mathematical equations.
Totally.
Like that's how there's formulas and stuff like that. And sometimes you get challenged with a equation that at first looks very foreign, and
he'll work on it for hours and hours and hours.
Hyper focuses on it.
Right.
And that's why I think Olivia's brother is actually, he's very nerd alert and this security admin, like a cybersecurity guy. But he dabbled in it for like a month. The gym he went to, they switched instructors and a month in, and it wasn't a good instructor from what it sounds like.
Okay.
Anyways, but that month that he was there, he was like, I remember because he's very similar, like Mikey, and like in that he's very smart.
Yeah, but it's almost like a Rottweiler on a bone with something, right?
Yeah,
he gets a hold of it.
And he can get super focused on something. Like, yeah. And I remember he was like 3 weeks in, and he goes, so it seems like jiu-jitsu is you're trying to build the most efficient way to move possible. So whether you're getting someone off of you or you're moving underneath them, or getting up, like a technical lift or a hip heist, it's the most efficient way to do that, or a shrimp. And I said, absolutely. That's because he's very into like efficiency and stuff like that. Like his brain works in that way. Like he wants things to be as optimized as possible. And so it was like stimulating his mind.
Yep.
And he's not a physical specimen.
Yeah.
But from a mental side, it was like alarming how it's these problems that are coming up, and he gets to solve them physically.
Yes.
But with his mind.
And that's so cool, because what will happen is then if you keep doing it, the mind's going to bring the body along.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he'll have all these other health benefits from a physical perspective, but also keeping that analytical mind. That's why they all call them nerd assassins, that Eddie Bravo talks about that all the time.
Yeah.
Where you get these super analytical, introspective types. They fall in love with it, because it's the same reason that drew me in. It's like it's never ending. You're not going to master it ever. And that's what keeps me like, it's like there's always a new position. I got to figure out an answer to that. Or dang it, Bill keeps getting me in this. I got to figure out an answer to it. Now my mind will go round and round. Well, that won't work. And it's endless, and it's really good for you, because then your brain has really occupied itself on that. And it's not going to be like, dang it, you're not going to get all stressed out by little things that your brain is.
There's like brain health. So like there's always brain games on your phone you can do for 10 minutes, and it's word association. You're doing that just physically. Super
helpful, but I think if you can combine something that is, they always call it human chess, jiu-jitsu.
But it's way more complex.
Well, for sure, right? 4-dimensional chess, whatever you want to call it, right? But if you can combine the mind-body thing too, I think it's even more beneficial, because you can't separate those two, right? Someone that is, I'm not saying that those things aren't good for the brain, because they are, but there's so much an interplay between having your body health and brain health. They're not separate. And if you're just concentrating on one, you're not going to have the benefits for both.
Yeah.
So
I also find that, so there's like the stereotype in jiu-jitsu, which is size doesn't matter, right? Which is interesting, because when you are experienced, you can say that to the day one person and be like, that's why jiu-jitsu is good, is it nullifies the size thing, right? It makes it so our female can compete with a stronger male that doesn't know anything.
But he doesn't know anything.
Right. But that stereotypical size doesn't matter quote is, it's a little deeper than just that, because I feel like as you do jiu-jitsu or grappling, you start to respect the whole size and strength difference, because then you do get to a point where it's like, oh no, it definitely matters.
Oh, yeah, of course it does.
Like, even if
that's why there's weight classes.
Right. And even if you have an experienced person that's 180 pounds and then an inexperienced person that's 240, there's still like, that experienced person is going to have their hands full.
Henry Gracie talked about this a lot. You know,
I haven't heard it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Go back and listen to it. He even talked about age and size.
For sure. Age,
as far as when yeah, definitely for age. Thanks for looking at me like that. But he was talking about, you know, I guess there's a black belt, an older black belt, lamenting that he felt like this blue belt was just freaking giving him
the business.
Yeah, the business, right? And this guy was probably my age in his 50s, and we have this 20-year-old savage or something, right? And he was like, "Look, man, it's an equalizer." He goes, "Yeah, off the street, you can take that guy to lunch, you know, yeah, but as soon as they develop some skill and then they have that athleticism and youth and all that, he's like, you need to start adding belt levels or subtracting, you know what I mean? It's not,
but that's the benefit of that black belt. That's he'd probably been training for 10 plus.
Right.
And, because if he hadn't, and he was just blue belt version of himself, he's getting his ass kicked.
Well, he could wipe out the blue belt version of himself.
Yeah.
And, or let's say myself as a 52-year-old guy, and I have some untrained 50-something guy. Yeah. Unless there's some kind of freak thing going on, it ain't going to be much of a contest.
Likelihood is very low, yeah.
Right. So you got to keep that in context, too, as far as that goes.
But and that's what I was saying with, like, the ladies is like, I feel like Olivia actually has more respect and a more realization of size and capabilities of not just females, but males and how that's real. Like, if there's a big ass dude, like, she might be confident that, okay, this guy, he's not gonna be able to hold me down because I at least have technique, and she does strength training.
Right.
So she does have strength to her as well, but that's all calculated. But if she didn't have those things, she could not get up.
Right.
If there was a larger guy.
Right.
Or even not even a larger guy, like 180-pound guy.
Guys, but there's a difference between men and women in strength. There just is. Yeah. For the most part, on the bell curve. And so it's a great point, and that's why for people are always comparing who you are in the gym. It's like we're all trained people. You're competing against other trained people, so that's why we have to work on all these crazy, just sharpen things and work on new guards and new attacks because we're trying to get around someone that's trained.
And why it is good to, in my opinion, go with the first dayer people because
I agree.
That's going to be the closest you get to a self-defense situation.
It sure is. And I think that's a great point, especially a larger person, because I'll always go into like defense mode. I'm going to feel them out
down
for sure. I'm going to protect myself and then let them make a mistake and capitalize. So exactly. But that problem-solving piece, I think, is pretty unique.
Yeah.
There's other things that do problem solving, but putting in context of all the other things we do too.
Well, it's interesting. I find from boxing, kickboxing perspective, I've done those, and from a hobbyist perspective, you have, because you can get the problem solving stuff with kickboxing, right? Because you're going to have your striking setups, your counters, your parries, and stuff like that. Your footwork. When they do this tell, you're going to have to do this. When they drop their hand here, you're going to throw this jab here, so then you can circle right cross. Okay, problem solving.
Yep.
But from what I noticed, hobbyist boxing, kickboxing classes are not going over these technical sessions.
Right.
They are more built for cardio, workout. Of
course.
Hit the bag, some light kind of sparring or something like that. You get a really good workout and you get more comfortable with striking. Rather than jiu-jitsu, it's 45 minutes, depending on the gym, 30 minutes, 45, an hour. Technical. And then let alone your situational sparring, which you're being put into more of a fight or flight than I would say a lot of the striking arts. Hobbyist perspective. We're talking about hobbyist classes.
Get it.
Not your pro training or your comp team.
Absolutely.
Like so I think that's another big reason why our problem solving in grappling and jiu-jitsu is maybe a little bit more intense.
It is.
Than some of the other quality martial arts.
For sure. Yeah. Being under the bottom of someone's mount and you feel like you can't escape.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like disengaging from a striking thing as much.
And just the time being put in during a hobbyist class, an everyday class.
I see what you're saying.
To the theories and concepts compared to, let's say, your boxing hobbyist class, which is not going to have as much theory and concept. It's going to have more application of a technique like a jab or a 1-2 or something of that sort, which isn't necessarily as much problem solving. It's more greasing the groove, cleaning up technique, but not the problem solving.
And that gets up at the higher levels of strikers.
Yeah.
You look like an Israel Adesanya or someone like that who's an artist, right? Where there's definitely a lot of problem solving going on.
Yeah, then you start adding tells and reactions.
Feints. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And I think, but that's it's an important, I think that's also something that but this problem solving thing helps out our daily life too. Because when something comes up, you're like, yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like...
Well, I think Olivia talked a little... Didn't you talk a little bit about that recently? We were driving someplace, and you were talking about what jiu-jitsu's done for you from a confidence perspective with figuring stuff out. Like you've run into...
Oh, are you talking about me just like building things in the house?
I think so.
Anything.
I think so. Literally, it was...
Sure.
I wasn't home, and it was something like that. Yeah. And you were like, I'm just going to do it.
But that molehill is no longer a mountain.
Yeah.
That's my point. And your brain's like, oh, okay,
before
I can figure it out.
Debilitating. She's like, there's no way I can do this.
Right.
And what was it? It was something simple.
Well, I put together that Roman chair, and I figured
workout
out,
equipment.
Yeah.
Our sink got clogged. I figured out how to unclog a sink.
Yeah, our garbage disposal. Like she's fixing stuff left and right.
Well, you guys, and you think that sounds like, oh, okay, whatever, run of the mill, but it's not, because what is confidence anyway? Right? It's self-efficacy, where I feel like I can, okay, I might not know how to do this, but I can figure it out. And it's not a huge, like, looming, the problem doesn't look so huge.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of my point, where you've already filled your brain with, oh no, I've solved some really difficult things. I can handle this type of thing.
Like how your nickname's Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Her nickname is Al Borland. We just call her Al.
Al?
Yeah.
Okay, I like it.
It works out.
For you.
A lot.
I know. I can tell.
Well, now, Bill's like, if I ask him for help, he's like, why don't you try doing it on your own first?
This worked out really well for you, hasn't it?
It worked out great for him.
As a shot, Tiger.
As he's eating some ice cream on the couch or
Basically.
something. Yeah, I figured as much.
Kill that spider.
Oh, okay. Can we talk about spiders for just a minute?
Please.
Every time there is a spider, and I'm like, Bill, there's a spider. Kind of like, hey, come kill this thing. I mean, I'm fine with doing it, but sometimes he's taller. I need his height. And what he ends up doing is he'll come over, but he won't do anything. He's like really slow, and then it skitters off somewhere. And I'm like, why didn't you kill it? And he's like, I don't know.
I actually don't kill spiders.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. You're a gentleman.
No, I kill other insects.
You know what I'm going to do next time she does it?
What?
I'm going to take my gun. I'm going to point it at the thing. I'm like, I'm going to kill it.
I know what you mean, though. So you're saying that he's not, yeah.
Well, he doesn't like killing the spiders either.
Well,
I'm the spider killer.
I have a moment.
We rescue them.
Like one of the cats.
Oh, here we go. Carrie's going to talk.
This morning.
Yep.
Chris wasn't up yet.
I hear this.
Starts running upstairs. I'm like, Chris.
Yeah. So Carrie's saying that this morning I was woken up by her yelling upstairs because one of her cats had a bird probably as half as big as she was in her mouth. And I'm the designated wildlife rescue unit.
I can do it if you're not here.
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
Carrie said she doesn't want to do it if I'm here. I'll take, whether it's, mice or birds or snakes.
It's on you.
Cats get snakes too.
Well, that's the thing. She puts it on me if there's a spider in the house, but she just doesn't like how fast I move.
Okay.
I analyze the situation.
You overanalyze the situation.
So your prefrontal cortex is really engaged, or you're not reactive, right?
I'm a smart guy.
Yeah, that's
I know
why
what
you
love
love
is.
them to like go into our kitchen cabinets where they can never be found again.
Spray some Windex next time.
That's literally what he did. He took some Dawn dish soap and sprayed it. I'm like, that thing is long gone.
This is I'm getting such
that
a great...
That guy's going to show up in your side of the bed.
Hey, thank you for these stories, Olivia. It makes me feel better about myself.
Happy we talked about that.
Yeah, Bill's like, let's moving on.
Yeah.
So the problem-solving piece is another piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah.
There's also something that I found that I've been gravitating towards. We've talked about this before in other episodes. Remember we were talking about ADHD, and there's a Douglas Brackman, a psychologist, really feels that there's a genetic component of that you don't have as good responsive to dopamine hits, and you're trying to chase it a little more. But I found that I like things that are kind of not high risk, but things like surfing, rock climbing, things like that, where I am completely in the moment. I'm not like I'm not like jogging on a treadmill, like, gosh, and my taxes and blah, blah, blah. Right. So you're things that put you in the moment, almost like what we call physical mindfulness, right? Where we're living moment to moment. We're not worrying about things either in the past, which is called rumination, like, oh man, that jerk at work today, I'm really angry at him. That's called rumination. It's a source of stress. Or worrying about the future, which is worry, right? Those two things are sources of chronic stress, and they're really a creation in our own mind. It's when the mind is not occupied, it's going to go to those things. It's another protective response, right? Something bad, someone said something or looked at me wrong, I'm mad for earlier, or gosh, I have to do this thing tomorrow where I'm really dreading. So I found that jiu-jitsu also has this kind of physical mindfulness piece to it, where when you're engaged and when you're there in class and you're doing things, you are, especially rolling, you're focused right there. You're not like, oh gosh, I'm not thinking about other stuff. Yeah. And that's really good for the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's something that you hear a lot from people is that they can just, they don't think about all the other BS.
Right.
You know, what's going on at home.
I don't even think you can.
Well, it's almost forced, right? Yeah. And so, and I think that's something that it's a forced meditation mindfulness piece to it, which is another, it's not unique, but it's another thing that to this, to make a total package that I think is also, because people like that, it's good for the brain, it's good for inflammation. Believe it or not, it reduces the flight or fight response. Yeah. So it's excellent. And we already talked about this last piece, community. And I think I agree with you guys. I think this is huge. It's really a sense of belonging, right? Especially in the last couple of years, a lot of people have had a lot of relative isolation for many reasons. And we don't have to go into it. But the mental health crisis has just gone through the roof because of it. Yeah. So both in kids and adults alike, we've been separated from our communities. And I think those of us that have been in jiu-jitsu for a while, it's almost a grieving thing too, because you're like, when you're not able to train. Yeah. They made a joke out of it. What was that one YouTube video, the jiu-jitsu trap house they had?
Paper on windows and knock a certain way.
Come over to get a little bit. I need, you need your drug.
Yeah, but
you guys got no gi today.
Yeah, give me 1 minute. 1 minute sparring. 1 minute sparring. It's going to cost extra.
It's going to cost extra. Yeah. That's such a great one. That's perfect.
Goes in, spars for 1 minute, then he's got to go.
Yeah, no instruction. Get out. You know what I mean? It was brilliant. I love that one. But it goes to the point of how important that community is, and having a tribe that you can actually rely on. More people that are going to endure this suffering process. And you brought up the military component. And I'll tell you, I haven't had friends like this since I was in the military. And I would even say that some of the friends I've developed here are closer than I've had in the military for that, when I was in for 13 years. So that to me...
Why is that? What do you think that is?
Going through hardship together. It's a shared experience. and especially the people that stick through it, and you're kind of gone through a gauntlet. It's why the people that graduate buds are so close. Or when I graduated Navy dive school, I still have my friends from that class. I still, have people to that day that are, that is a shared experience.
It's a smaller group. Because there's not only the people that we like actively train with, but then there's it almost feels like there's a stronger connection with people you came up with.
Yeah.
So people that you started at white belt or blue belt, or you're very similar, and like you've seen each other get through promotions, and like that's kind of like the mimicking your dive school, like where it's your Navy group, but then you have your small specialized group that also came up and through
together, right? Yeah. And that's something you can't replace. That's why this has been so valuable. It was really something that I am typically an introvert. I have a job where I'm talking to people all day and I'm kind of exhausted by it. But this is one of the few things where on my terms, going to class actually energizes me, even as an introvert. Because there's such a strong community basis for this. And that's why I think CrossFit's popular, right? Because you have people that are sweating together and getting through workouts of the day and stuff like that. But I don't think CrossFit has like the problem solving piece. Right. So, if you look at these things, listing, going back and looking at all these boxes that this thing checks, Jiu-Jitsu checks, is the physical and health benefits, the brain benefits, the chronic stress, the resilience it builds, the problem solving, the mindfulness piece to this, and the community. I think it puts it together in a way that, at least for me conceptually, it's like, okay, well, that makes sense to me why I feel compelled and why when I miss class, even if I need to, even if I'm like, I'm just really, I'm like, oh man, because, a lot of it's just going and seeing my friends and being there, right? So I've just been thinking about that for a long time, and I wanted to kind of put it out there into some kind of conceptual piece.
What's interesting
why
too
I
is
think
the community thing is bigger than even just your own gym if you allow it.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of gyms that aren't super keen on cross training and going to other gyms, and whether you do that or not, it's fine. But I think it's a red flag if your gym starts talking about like loyalty and like only staying with like training there.
That's a problem.
If you hear that, the loyalty word is a little sketchy in the martial arts world.
Yeah.
But because it's like, what the hell is that? What
then you start looking at weird guru relationships and stuff, right?
So, for example, because I drop in at a lot of places, I've over the years seen not just our closest internal family, if you will, training partners and all that, but there's people at other gyms that I see them get promoted. So when I drop in, they're a new belt color or something like that, or they've gone to a tournament, or we see them at tournaments.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like when you go to a tournament, it's not just your little faction. It's like you're shaking hands and kissing babies with a bunch of different people. And it's like really becomes this community that you've all understand the struggles and positives from. And
well, I met a guy earlier today from another gym. And you automatically have a rapport. Yeah. You know where you're coming from. You're speaking kind of the same language. Yeah. And it's just like instantly.
It's almost like a wall gets taken down immediately.
It does, man. It's like, here's another brother of mine that I'd like to get to know better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you can, it's up to you to allow yourself to do that, to try, not saying join another gym. I'm just saying, just drop in and feel the community. It is a big community. You can support the whole community in your area by doing that, because it used to be much more split where it was very team oriented and
very much
be
so.
A creonche and
the whole trader thing, right?
Yeah. But that stuff has kind of gotten tore down quite a bit, and
it should be.
Yeah, and you can have a very healthy community.
We can compete against each other. That's great.
Yeah.
But it's all what it is,
and
right?
Even someone like Andrew, he's been in, the Pacific Northwest community for 20 years, and so he can like go to a tournament or he can communicate with someone from Federal Way, and he, maybe it's been 10 years since you trained with him, but there's a familiarity. There's still like a connection there. And
well, we just had a guy come in not too long ago that's now a regular that trained with Andrew coming up, and is just fit, just meshed right back in. It's awesome.
It was funny. I was going through Andrew's Facebook page.
Why were you doing that?
I was trying to figure out what year he got his black belt.
Oh, 2009.
Well, that's I wasn't 100% on what year it was.
Could have called me, bro. I'm just joking.
I was going to lurk anyways. Okay. So I was looking through the old photos, and it was just funny because you could see, like there was group photos of, there was a group photo, and there was 6 of the people are now black belts. And there was a couple brown belts, and some of the black belts were white belts in the photo. And it was just funny. And then you had like the really old ones, like from 2010, which is like right after he got his black belt, or at least when the photos were posted. That was the date on them. And you see like other old school Cindy Hales, old school people that have fresh black belts, and other people in the community. It was just kind of, it was funny to see that, a lot of these people are still around.
Yep.
And he was like, there's photos of him with his brown belt. I don't think there was anything with earlier than that, but it was just, I don't know, because I was looking in the crowd as well, like in like the background and trying to recognize people.
It's very cool.
Yeah. It was pretty cool to see, and seeing those people still in the community.
I think, kind of everything that we're talking about here, both the community and all these little points we made today, is why it's expanding and why it's growing. And I think it's making the world a better place very slowly. I mean, because if people are much more chilled out, most people, generalization, most people that train regularly in jiu-jitsu are super cool and chilled out, typically kind of are thoughtful people. And typically, not loyal to each other, just as people, right? Yeah. And so I think it's a lot less, not as much prone to road rage and all these other things for the reasons we talked about. So I think it's anyway. This is just something I don't know if it's beneficial or not to talk about, but it's something I wanted to get you guys without giving you any something I've been thinking about a long time.
I think it's a cool subject for sure to talk about, especially as for other people to kind of ruminate on.
And look at you.
Look at me.
I know.
Look at me.
I mean, I even heard you giving medical advice the other day. Not really, but it's all this information should be like a multiplier here, giving people good information. And also,
equip yourself to help equip others.
And if you're listening to this, like you have a family member that trains, I mean, give it a shot. Find a good gym, and it's nothing but helpful.
With that, I do have a question.
Okay.
That came in from someone, and it relates to the staph infection episode.
Oh, right.
Because they had a little issue themselves.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read their comment.
Sure.
And then we can kind of go off on that.
Okay.
This is someone new to jiu-jitsu. They started training they said, I've been training about 30 days ago, and I'm shocked that I got a nasty staph infection in my arm. It hurt so badly. I finally went to the doctor. They gave me some antibiotics. So first part of the question is staph something that comes with jiu-jitsu? Now, this might give you an answer to that. They say, I've never seen anyone clean the mats at the gym I'm in. I've been going 6 times a week for the last month, 3 hours a day. So you can probably respond to that first.
Yeah, and there's some obvious things here.
Start with the beginning.
So yes,
staph and jiu-jitsu.
Staph. So first of all, whoever wrote that question, it's a very good one. Go back and listen to our MRSA, which is methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, and ringworm episode. Really important. But to address, you're getting skin-to-skin contact. You're getting abrasions and breaks in the skin from training. And even under the best of circumstances like our gym is like, I think, the perfect example of a gym that's kept clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
We meticulously, even if I have 3 people in the day class, I clean the whole mats.
Gonna, get rid of all that stuff with a bactericidal thing. But, like we talked about before, staph is on our skin. Mm-hmm. And it's on other people, and certain types of staph, so other people's are carriers for. Just like we have different gut microbiota, we'll have different skin flora too. And some people will carry the certain type of staph that's resistant called MRSA. And it certainly is highly transferable. And especially if you have breaks in the skin, if you're training for 3 hours a day, 6 days a week in a gym that is not cleaning. Yeah, man, it's a setup.
So the initial question, is staph part of jiu-jitsu? I'd say the answer is yes and no. Yes, you are going to be exposed to the scenario which you can get it. But no, it doesn't have to be a part of like your training.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, like we talked about, when you go listen to the previous episode on MRSA, we talk about preventive things all the time. I mean, I take a shower with some type of tea tree oil based soap like Defense every day after I train. So, and then if you get any little cuts like how did you take care of your recent wound on your head?
Yeah, it was the tea tree and the triple antibiotic.
Antibiotics, right.
But I was just doing it, and I have the Defense body wash.
Yeah.
And I just made sure that after every training, I worked it.
So these are the preventive things you can do to prevent a break in the skin or a little laceration or something from becoming infected with a resistant staph. And so, no, none of this has to happen. I haven't had an active staph infection. I don't think. I've had 1 or 2 cases of ringworm the entire time. And it's just
something about that, because I have, right? We train all the time. We train weekly. And Carrie hasn't got it. Olivia. But we all train.
Next to you in a bed.
Why'd you make that face?
Why did I make that face?
She goes,
did she make a face when she said that?
And next to you in a bed.
Like, look what I'm doing for humanity. Look at the sacrifice I'm making.
She just smelled an elephant fart. What the hell? So,
well, I got to say, I personally would feel the same way.
Excuse you.
Yeah, but
you want that monkeypox again? Yeah. Also herpes.
Here we go.
So, with that, because I've, they're not major outbreak. I haven't had to go to the hospital. I haven't even had to get antibiotics. But, it's minor outbreaks. And you guys have been able, because you do the correct thing when it comes to preventive maintenance and stuff like that.
We're not nasty animals like you.
Right. Exactly. Now, they'd say the bigger concern is, so this guy, even though he's obviously training in a horrible environment, just to be bold, he can probably prevent it. Now, talking about his gym, that's not good. If you haven't seen them clean once in a month, and if he's saying 30 days, or excuse me, 3 hours a day, that means the guy's getting there early. He's leaving probably one of the last people to leave. Yeah. And if he's not seeing it, even if the gym owner is waiting till the next morning for the morning class to clean or something like that, you should at least have seen someone clean once.
Or a cabinet that has the stuff in it. Like, at the end of our rolling, after an hour roll, near the end of our sparring sessions, someone will always be taken out that, we clean right after. Yeah. Right. And I know you do when you run day class. Yeah.
That would be kind of concerning unless it's, you're very new to the gym. I would either consider a different gym. Yep. Because if that's how they're treating the cleanliness, there's just other things that would probably be alarming. Two, I would bring it up, and it's probably going to chap the old professor's butt. But maybe I would bring it up and be like, "Hey, do we clean the mats?"
Regularly? Or maybe you would say, "Oh yeah, we do clean them, but this is what I do." You may not know that they're cleaning them.
Sure, the guy gets there earlier, but even then, just letting it's like washing your gi. If I don't know if this person has done it yet, but if you wait till the next day to throw it in the wash, it's a different animal. It's literally a different animal. It's
quasi alive at that point.
Yeah, Darwinism has its piece of proof that it's been looking for years.
The missing link,
the change of kind.
Okay,
a cat turned into a dog.
I like it.
Yeah, that's my.
That segue was amazing, by the way. I like that, dude. Are you on Lion's Mane or something?
I mean, I'm on a little
some neurotropic or something.
Yeah,
you're more lucid than usual.
I'm high as a kite.
I think it's because he hasn't had a candy bar yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm about to eat.
How are you alive? Oh. That was disturbing. So, by the way, that should be on the thumbnail.
I didn't know that was going to come off.
That needs to be on the thumb. Speaking of cleanliness.
Sorry.
You dirty animal.
This one next time.
You dirty animal. Well, that needs to be on the thumbnail.
Yeah. We'll see.
Having you mouthing the microphone.
Easy,
disgusting.
Good thing barely anybody else does Photoshop. Otherwise, that would be pretty.
What is this Photoshop you speak of?
Yeah. Superimpose. Well, we have more questions, but I'm going to hold them.
Perfect.
And we'll do those next time.
Well, I hope this has been at least somewhat beneficial. I think, and if you guys have comments on why, something we didn't cover, why you think, other reasons why you think this is kind of uniquely kind of a cool thing to do and good for you and the whole 9 yards, let us know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Actually, sorry.
Yeah.
For that person that asked that question.
Yeah.
Send your coach the staph infection episode.
Yes.
Because they actually commented on YouTube on that episode, so they definitely listened to it. But
okay.
Be like, hey, this is an interesting episode.
Can we check this out?
Check out what they're saying about this stuff.
Yeah.
I think we go pretty hard on it. So
we do. It's really important too. So it's pretty cool.
You got some announcements?
Yeah, just one. So to this afternoon, not an announcement, but I want to get your take. Who's number one? Prediction.
Well, actually, I have a group chat. Let me bring up receipts.
Is Nikita in on this group chat?
Yeah. Our savage blue belt, Nikita.
I want to hear the picks.
Yes.
Because that's going off here in, probably an hour
and a half.
Hour and a half.
And then also brown belt Brian is, we have a little pool thing going.
I love how I find this out now.
Why am I not in the pool? I know. Why am I not in this?
Nikita said he didn't want you in there.
You're a liar. You're just throwing him under the bus.
I mean, I'm an honest guy, and
Nikita's just gonna
call Nikita out for being a little biatch. I was like, let's add Chris, and he's like, no, this is not the water good.
That's the worst. He doesn't talk like that.
Are you kidding me?
Dude, Nikita speaks better English than you do. Oh my gosh.
I can't even say his last name. Okay. So I have Fabricio Andre, Hokage, winning by triangle. You're calling out the submission too. Yeah, we did who's going to win and then by what?
Fair enough.
So by triangle.
Let's talk about the competitor. Give us.
Okay, he's going against a brown belt that I don't even know. He didn't win a single fight on Who's Next on the TV show. And Fabricio Andre is world champion, one of the most exciting guys out there. I think he's going to run through him.
Okay.
So I got him winning by triangle. You got Baby Shark, Diego Hayes going against Esteban Martinez, the Giant Slayer. The guy's 125 pounds and like 4'2". But extremely good wrestling, very good, very difficult to submit. 15-minute match. I have Diog.
I didn't know that he was on Who's Number One.
Yep.
Which is super cool.
Super cool. I got Baby Shark winning by RNC.
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of my like bold pick. I think that's probably.
So Giant Slayer, you're talking about the same guy that has a YouTube channel, right?
Esteban Martinez.
Yeah.
Like he's a little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does backflips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were doing over-under on 3 backflips.
Sure.
So I got Baby Shark winning by rear naked choke, which I think is kind of a bold. That might lose me the whole competition. Then we have Jay Rodriguez going against the Hillbilly Hammer, Jacob Couch. So this is a good one because you have a really tenacious wrestler, J-Rod, coming from the B team. Really good squad. He won ADCC trials. Jacob Hammer or Hillbilly Hammer Jacob Couch coming from Pedigo, Daisy Fresh, really good leg locker.
He is. He got smashed by Gordon, but
I mean,
that's Gordon.
So did the last world champion, and absolute champ.
Yes, that's true. I would go with J-Rod on this one.
Well, we're gonna get your picks.
Oh,
so then you can be a part of this and stop being a little biatch.
Well, I feel like it now. I have to be because you didn't include me.
Yeah,
I think I'm just feeding ducks or something.
Gosh, this guy is gonna pout so hard. So sorry, Nikita, we're letting him in. I told Nikita that I want you to, but. So I got J-Rod by decision.
Okay.
Ooh. Yeah, I think it's going to go 15 minutes, and J-Rod's going to win by decision. I think Jacob's hard to finish. J-Rod's hard to finish. So
okay.
Then we have really good match. Bia Mesquite, maybe the greatest female grappler ever, against Elizabeth Clay. This is a good one. There's a fresh black belt, Elizabeth
Clay.
Yeah, but she's not your average fresh black belt.
No, she's a juvenile that came through.
I mean, she is amazing. I mean, just look at what she did with Gabby Garcia.
And that's the big thing. So Clay has actually she's always carried a little bit more weight. And because unfortunately, in the women's divisions, there's not as many.
Yeah, I know.
So there's bigger jumps.
Right.
So if Clay is going to be 150 pounds and she's, for her, in good shape, then she's actually going to be going against 180-pound females. So it kind of behooves her to put on maybe an extra 10 or
Are
so.
they both in 80cc? I know Bia
They
is.
both are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Clay, I don't think is.
Wow.
I don't think she is this year.
I think she should.
She's the alternate.
Okay.
If someone gets hurt, then she'll be in.
I think she's great.
So Clay, because she's not going against 260-pound Gabby Garcia, she is able to actually work on her cardio and stuff like that. So she's dropped a little bit of weight. I believe she's like 138, 140, something like that. And Bia is right there as well. So this is the first time we get to see Clay go against someone of similar size.
Interesting. Okay.
Unfortunately, it is like maybe the best female that's ever that we've seen. But
I think Mia Bastos is better.
Misa Bastos?
Yeah, Maya Bastos.
I could see the argument. I think Bia just has
more wins?
She's just been in it longer at black belt, so she has more accolades. But I could see Bastos being maybe better. Bia's fun to watch though because she's extremely aggressive and submission hunter
for sure.
And then so is Clay, big leg locker. So that will be kind of the thing. That's going to be a fun one. I have Bia by decision.
Okay,
we'll see. Liv, you can jump in when Chris goes too if you want. Then we get down to the nitty gritty. We got Mika Gavao against Alan Sanchez, and it probably didn't matter who I said, but
it wouldn't.
Mika Gavao, the phenom.
Yep.
I have him, or I have Bia by decision. Then I have Mika by arm lock. Alan Sanchez is probably a top 3 10th planet competitor, maybe top 4 because you have someone like PJ Barch, Gio Martinez, Andy Varela, and then Alan Sanchez is right up there. He's the least known, but he's extremely good. But I got Mika winning by arm lock. And then we have Rafael Lovato Jr. Against Nicholas Marigali.
No-gi.
All no-gi. That's going to be an interesting one because it's a good match for Marigali because he's one of the greatest gi competitors, but it's his 3rd no-gi match ever. And
does Lovato do more no-gi?
Well, he's been in MMA for a while before he had to retire,
and he's well versed in no-gi.
Yep.
He's medaled at ADCC.
Yep. Go with Lovato.
Yeah, he's very good, and he's not a leg locker, which you would think be Marigali's kind of bugaboo right now because he's still learning that stuff. So that's kind of a good thing for Marigali is it's going to be someone that has a little bit more traditional jiu-jitsu. I think Lovato has the leg up on the standing game. So it'll be interesting to see if Lovato gets Marigali down because we haven't seen Marigali off his back really in no-gi. And Marigali's such a grip-heavy collar sleeve kind of player how does he do against a very good pressure-oriented Lovato?
Yes, absolutely.
Very interesting matchup. I have Lovato by decision because I think Meregali is going to be hard to finish.
Okay.
But yeah. So then we have the main event, no time limit. Gordon Ryan versus Felipe Paquisa. Put a little spice on that, a little chocolate syrup.
Spice on a lot of things.
Thank you. And then, so I have Gordon by armbar.
By armbar.
By armbar.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Is that how Pena finished him in the last match?
Pena finished him by rear naked choke.
You don't think he'll just do the same?
This is the big one that the reason this is big is the only time Gordon has lost by submission at black belt was this against Pena.
Yeah, but wasn't that like 2016? There was something? Yeah.
It was a very long time ago.
Right.
And Gordon was 175 pounds. Now he's not.
Not only that, what he is.
And technically he's morphed.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah.
I think, yeah. And Gordon's coming out to prove some. I think Pena, the guy is really freaking good, right? He's top of the food chain. We just saw Gordon destroy a top of the food chain guy. But there's that unknown because Felipe has taken Gordon's back a couple times off of Gordon doing leg entries. And at this, I don't think that happens again. I can't imagine. I just don't see it. So yeah, I can imagine Gordon. I think the easiest submission for Gordon to get is a leg lock because that's Felipe is not. He's not top of the food chain at leg lock defense. Tex Johnson submitted him very quickly. And anyways, I think Gordon mounts him and punishes him for 30 minutes and probably allows Felipe to re-guard and then passes his guard again. And he's going to do that kind of like what he did to Pedro a couple times. He's going to put on that mother's milk and feed him like a suckling baby. And then I think he goes armbar from mount rather than the choke.
I have another. Okay, so when I go through, I'll tell you what I think.
So Nikita has Americana from mount from Gordon.
No.
And then Brian. Wow. I never even read Brian's yet. Brian has Pena by RNC.
What?
What a
Brian.
Dude. He's a effing idiot.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Andrea slapped him a little bit.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe Andrea actually told him, said, "Hey, you pick against the Brazilian, you're dead, buddy."
I doubt she said that.
I doubt it too.
Yeah. Well, I'll go in reverse order then.
Can I also say what his
I guess.
Brian's? I didn't see.
Okay,
this.
go ahead.
He picked Bia to win by resting bitch face.
She does have that.
Okay.
She's a mean looking.
Brian, you've redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Okay. So what?
Gordon.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going for Gordon by arm triangle.
Arm triangle. I thought about it.
Just for coming that mount position.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just haven't seen him finish someone.
I just the game he's playing lately.
He was setting that up on a couple matches. I think Mateus Denise or something.
Yep.
But
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Okay.
Marigali.
Lovato by armbar.
Okay. Interesting. Mika.
Sanchez. Mika probably by rear naked choke.
Okay. Bia. Clay.
Armbar. Yep.
Not leg lock?
Nope.
Wow. Liv?
I'm going to say Clay via some sort of leg lock.
Okay.
Maybe like a heel hook.
Carrie says
yeah.
Nods. Couch. J-Rod.
J-Rod, I think this is going to go to decision. I agree.
Okay. Baby Shark. Giant Slayer. Good names.
I know. I'm going with Baby Shark.
That's probably going to be the funnest match.
Super fast. And it's so hard to pick with probably something from the back.
Fabricio Andre against a brown belt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna go.
No disrespect.
No, but yeah, I've got to go with Fabrizio on
Yeah.
that. I don't know what he's gonna play with him for a while. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see the triangle being like a flying triangle too. So like
That'd be kinda sweet.
jumping over the guy's guard, something cool
Yeah,
like that.
I won't. I don't have a strong feeling about the submission.
Okay, what do you guys think on Gordon versus Pena, Carrie?
Oh,
Gordon.
I would live rear naked choke.
Rear
Yeah,
naked choke.
yep.
Yeah,
Oh, he's a vengeful. And,
He is.
And he carries
He-
grudges.
he's got all
and
kinds of
he will
petty.
remember, and he will probably just sit there and talk into his ear for like a good minute before he finishes.
That's
I
what he
guarantee
said.
you will.
He said he's going to pat his head and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So the only reason he said he's going to finish it in less than 45 minutes is because Lovato said he's only going to watch 45 minutes of it, and then he has to go to his kids. So he's like, well, because Lovato needs to go home, I'll do it in under 45. I was like, okay. Gosh.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Good things.
Cool, man. Yeah. Do you have anything else before we bust on out of here?
I don't think so. I think we're all good in the hood. Like, subscribe, send some questions if you got them, or post them on YouTube, and I'll read them, and we'll check them out. Share if you can.
Yep, and definitely more. Please send some stuff you want to hear about.
Yeah. If there's topics that you
Topics, yeah, like hey, that we haven't covered.
herpes. We might have a guest on about herpes. I don't know. We'll bring in a professional.
Are you going to be the test case here? Are you going to be
his name's Josh Haggerty.
dude? Josh, you know what to do to Bill. That's all I got to say.
He hasn't gotten some heat lately.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right.
Later.
See y'all.